Hey! What's up guys, my name is Hutch, and I usually make video game videos and put them on the internet. In fact, most of you guys probably know me from the last 10 years, primarily focused on Call of Duty, sometimes branching off and doing chess and Fortnite and that sort of thing, but only those of you guys that follow me on Twitter for the last, I'm gonna say 4 years, have seen me really lean into politics, which is an unlikely intersection, gaming and politics. Usually a terrible idea, but it's been going great for me on Twitch. In fact, at this point, viewership for political events is probably 3 times, 4 times what it normally is for just me playing Call of Duty. So for the year 2021, I've decided to lean into politics even more and start bringing it onto the YouTube channel like today's video. I was recently on a panel, a political panel, sort of like a podcast, a video podcast with 7 other streamers who are into politics. And today's video is going to be a highlights reel of that encounter. I'm trying to think of something else that I need to say, but I don't think I need to say anything else. So without further ado, enjoy the video.
So we're going to start around the room on the first topic. Donald Trump was recently banned off of the platform Twitter, and afterwards many other platforms. Parler has also get cracked down a little bit by Apple and Google and larger corporations, and so we're going to be talking about that. So what are your guys' thoughts on Trump's Twitter ban and the fallout from it?
Trump was banned for what exactly? The reason they're giving is incitement. How did he incite anything? Let's take words that he said exactly. Go home in peace. I want no violence. You know what I mean? This is not who we are, etc. So my problem is, why are they banning it? And is what they're telling us true? Because this incitement of violence that the left is pushing is very, 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 very dangerous and vague. Because no bans like this happen on the left. The same was done by leftist leaders with no consequences. You know, we have Cuomo saying riots, and when a riot's supposed to be peaceful. AOC saying they're supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. Kamala Harris saying this won't end and it shouldn't end. Were they banned? Was Cory Booker banned for saying get in their faces? These are all direct quotes. It goes on and on and on. And where were the Dems?
As far as Twitter banning Trump goes, I think they were acting in the best interest of not only the country, but their fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. You can't expect to be a profitable company long term if you're allowing a speech that is specifically, like explicitly inciting violence, which I take issue with what Aftershock said. The argument, I think that a lot of right-wingers they'll frame their argument as follows. They'll say that because Donald Trump didn't get in front of a microphone and explicitly say, I want you to go to the Capitol and break the doors down, that means he didn't incite violence. But that ignores the fact that, for example, in the rally that he was a part of right before that event, he was telling his audience, you need to fight, you can't show weakness. I mean, these are not like super vague terms, really. I mean, what did he expect them to do? I mean, that's a serious question that I would encourage the other panelists to try to answer themselves. Like, what did he expect was going to happen after he told his 80 million followers on Twitter for 2 months that the election was stolen, that it was a coup, that it was rigged? If that was true, of course fucking people are going to storm the Capitol, and they'd have every right to if it was true. I mean, if you see it happen in a third world country, or what we call third world country or whatever, some tyrant is deposed by the people following rigged elections, we would applaud it here. This is something that we would, our Secretary of State would get up there and make a statement and say, this is, we support the people of whatever. And so, I mean, I just have a hard time wrapping my head around the argument that he wasn't inciting violence. So, yeah, that's my take. It was a good thing.
When does Donald Trump feel the need to clarify, to paint things in a positive light? Is it immediately after something happens in a time of crisis, or does it take a couple attempts for him to sort of say the thing that people are looking for him to say? I'm just wondering where your mind is on that.
As we saw in literally as the DC raid was happening, he was literally calling for peace.
Sure. What did he say?
Was literally calling.
Hang on. I got this. So what did he say before that? However.
What you tell me? Tell me everything you think
I'm
that he did, because I literally have
hang
quotes
on.
from Hutch that I will literally use against him. So tell me what he did to incite this violence.
Aftershock, hang on here. I'm coming here in good faith here. I just want to see where your mind is at on here.
It's open to interpretation, my man. Like that can be used by anything. It's very vague. This incitement of violence. Again, I bring you to AOC, to Cory Booker, to Cori Bush. All of this stuff was said that is far worse than what Donald Trump was saying. But did we see the same things happen to them?
No, none of them.
This is why.
Can we take a moment here? Hutch was trying to say something earlier, and so I'm going to throw it to Hutch. And Vadim, I wrote your name down. Don't worry.
Well, I just want to respond to the idea that what AOC and Cory Booker said was worse than Donald Trump. Like, that is really hard to wrap my mind around. Neither one of them incited a mob to storm the Capitol. He literally told them to, like, run to the Capitol and fight. And he had been lying to them. Do you acknowledge that? Actually, I want to ask you that. He had been lying to them for 2 months that the election was stolen.
Okay, so yeah, let me also, while I'm answering your question,
just like
yeah, I know. I'm just making myself clear and letting you guys know what my stance on it. I personally don't believe the election was stolen, quote unquote. I don't think it was rigged. Okay. I do agree with what you just said. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree. But okay, so fight means much more than physical violence, dude. That's the thing. Like, that's literally what Joe Lewis is going after me for, because you're trying to paint fight as go over there and beat the shit out of people. We all know he didn't say that.
It's not just fight.
He didn't mean it.
Context does matter. This is him saying to fight. Exactly. This is him saying to fight back against the Democrats who stole your election, who stole your country. What did you expect them to do? Seriously, what did you do?
Consistency thing.
If somebody told you, if somebody told you, and they were telling you the truth, they stole it. This is a stolen election. Do you not think that violent insurrection would be justified? Do you not? Would you not expect that? No. What do you mean no?
No.
If somebody stole an election. Okay.
No, when he says fight, he means much more than physical violence, which is exactly why in that same paragraph, literally 20 minutes after the Capitol was being rioted, he was literally saying while it was happening, peacefully protest. I know you're going to do that.
I love you. You're great. You're patriots. Go home. I love you. Go home in peace. He did it because he felt political pressure to do that. He's got legal counsel. He's got White House.
And this is exactly why the narrative that the left is pushing is so dangerous, because everything you have just said is so vague. When I literally have Cory Booker saying, "Get in their faces."
No,
get in their faces.
Listen,
not only that,
let's just imagine for a second if Donald Trump said, "Get in their faces."
He
let's just imagine that for a second.
All the fucking time. He said, "Punch people." He said, "Punch people." I'll pay your legal fees.
Hold on.
Give him a moment. Everybody was talking over each other at the end of that, so I wanted to stop it for a moment because it was getting off the rails. And Vadim did raise their hand a little bit ago, so I want to give a chance for Vadim to say their piece before we return back to the open format. What were you trying to get across, Vadim?
Okay, I don't know where to start. The line, maybe he should have been roughed up because it was absolutely disgusting what he was doing. That speaks for itself. That doesn't, like, that is, unless he said afterwards in Minecraft, I mean, like, he didn't do that. He did not do that. There are other instances that I can quote, that I could find for you. There's no shortage of them.
You're right. There's no innocent context for that. That wasn't just a one-off either. He repeatedly, that was like a line that he would roll out, like the shit that he would do. Like, look at the cameras, they're turning the fucking lights off, and none of them were turning the lights off. He did this at like every rally. He would encourage his supporters to engage in violent acts against protesters that were in the crowd. There's not just like one video or two videos. There are dozens of videos of him doing this precise thing. So when you talk about like his intent being vague, like whatever happened to just like he's showing you who he is. Donald Trump in many ways is simultaneously the most dishonest president that we've ever had, and also the most transparent president that we've ever had.
All right. You said that he didn't call off the crowd. He literally tweeted while it was happening. He was also still on stage while the Capitol riot was happening.
Hours later.
He was literally still on stage when that Capitol riot was happening. Do you know that?
Buddy, it went on for hours before he put a video out.
Dude.
Do you acknowledge that?
He tweeted while they were doing it.
Hours
not
later.
Just Donald Trump. No, it was while it was happening.
Real quick, very, very quickly. CTV, then, you're saying it sounds like you don't support Twitter banning Donald Trump from Facebook.
I think I made that clear
from Twitter
to begin with.
So you think that he should be allowed on the platform? I just want to make sure it's as clear as possible is all.
That's a yes.
I don't like repeating myself, so go ahead.
I need it's a yes or a no here. Like,
Okay, so
are you
like
saying
since I
that
said I don't like repeating myself, go ahead.
I
There's
want
the point here, Joe. Get to it.
Okay,
I want you
he is saying yes. Yes,
What
he does.
in
No,
time?
He's
he
saying
does not
yes.
support it.
So do you feel that Louis Farrakhan should be allowed on Twitter as well?
I don't know who Louis Farrakhan is.
The
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Joe's done.
I want
Bro, we just talked about him. We used his quotes.
Joe, give
Sorry.
me a moment.
What if somebody was orchestrating an attack on your home and they were using Twitter and they were coordinating through Twitter to accomplish that end goal? Would you
Well,
want
then I would hope that
Well-
in that case, I would have all the evidence necessary to provide it to local law enforcement for them to be able to prevent any type of thing happening like that. While I'm also cock-locked and ready to rock my own fucking firearms against anybody that thinks that they're going to come into my house and tell me how shit's going to run.
I'm sure you're very
Hell yeah,
powerful with
brother.
very powerful rifles, but I'm asking
Hutch.
you, if there was a coordinated attack on your home through a social media platform, would you want the platform to step in and stop that?
I mean,
If
I would
you're-
want the
In this
platform
in this very specific instance, what you're saying is that the response from Donald Trump, while fucking poor, right, was somehow inciting the violence, which I did not
Of course
see
it
him,
was. Of course it
because
was.
that's your perspective.
It's
Right, I
the
was the guy that was
perspective.
on that day saying that the fucking guy did not need to be president, and was completely fucking appalled that Ashley Babbitt got shot inside the fucking Capitol. Right? Go
Yeah,
back and
after
watch
she
the fucking
smashed a
talk,
window
right?
into the halls of Congress
I don't give
and
a
jumped
fuck
through a
about
window
any of
where
that.
a guy's holding
I
a gun
don't
to her
give a
head.
fuck.
Why did
The
she
whole
not
fucking
expect that to
government
happen?
failed that fucking day, the whole fucking government, the House, the Senate, the National Guard wasn't fucking there. The entire fucking government fucking failed. And the fact that anybody on this panel is only pointing to one person only shows their own fucking bias. And you're not looking
Well,
at the whole
We're
fucking problem.
only having a conversation about Trump. What do you want us to talk about? A million
Right,
people?
No, that's
what
false.
you keep going around this instead of
I don't know what that
Okay,
means.
we're gonna take a moment here.
Fully kind of
Oh, if I was wearing a heart rate monitor,
What violence has come from Maxine Waters' comments? CTV. How many people died from Maxine Waters
it
saying
can
those
definitely
things?
be argued that considering that the BLM movement and the Antifa movement has
She said
spawned
that
as
2
a
years
result
ago.
of the rhetoric of the left.
She
right,
said
that
those comments years
all of those
ago.
things could be associated with that, right?
She said
there-
those comments
She-
years ago.
she was
CTV.
she was clearly towing the line. She probably should not have
She
used
is
language like
any
that.
character. I mean, we
She
can-
was clearly towing the line. She probably should not have used that kind of language. But there's a difference between what she said and what Rudy Giuliani was saying at the rally before the failed coup attempt. And
There's
you guys
okay.
are drawing quite the false equivalence here. So Aftershock, for example, for a minute ago, you drew an equivalence between women dressing up like the fucking handsmaid. And can I say fuck, by the way? Is that fine?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Like the fucking Handmaid's Tale, as if that is, what is that? What violence do you think that is?
Dude, you completely missed my point. It wasn't about violence. It was about hoaxes, because that's what the leftists are trying. Yes, it's a hoax. Women aren't the women from Handmaid's Tale in America.
They were protesting possible draconian policies that would impact
By
women's
dressing
reproductive
up
health.
as people from the
And-
Handmaid's Tale.
So what?
See, this is what you like.
Don't
So,
die on this hill, friend.
I almost shed a tear. I almost shed a tear, like at the beginning when
Please
you
don't.
called out
Please
the
don't.
fact that
Let's take down the
Democrats shouldn't have said that. No, yeah. But yeah, that's what I was saying, because this narrative that fake news, all these hoaxes, all this misinformation has to be
But
banned.
it's not a hoax that women feel threatened by the Supreme Court. That
They
is
can
not a
feel
hoax.
however they want, just like the people that were at DC felt a
Okay.
certain way. None of it is
That is
justified,
not
nor
an
none of
equivalent-
it is true.
It is not an equivalence. You are. This is what.
fucking god!
What do you mean? Oh my God! You
Hold
are
on,
drawing an
friend.
equivalence
You can-
between the insurrectionists and Handmaid's Tales. Like what the fuck? Like they have nothing to do with each other. Their temperature is nowhere near each other.
Really?
I
So
just want-
something that we want to.
Really? Yes.
You think that women feeling as though they are just bodies meant to just
Yes.
produce babies isn't fake news? Isn't misinformation?
No.
That somebody can see that on the internet and be like,
No.
wow, that's fucked up.
Well, they're
Gotcha.
having the right to.
Gotcha.
Yes,
All right,
thank you. I appreciate that.
Joe Lewis, you were
as
Gotcha.
as a bunch of cis men on this panel, we should probably shut the fuck up about women's rights right now because we're probably unequipped to have this conversation because
Oh,
that
right,
wasn't
'cause
part of our
I can
research.
talk about whatever I want to talk about.
Right,
How
I'm
about
just,
that?
I'm just saying we should probably.
Technically, we can't because that's not the topic of the discussion. So we aren't going to move back to that.
Point.
Here's the other question: is the current deplatforming of Donald Trump?
Yeah, Destiny, if I had to interject and fact check everything that Aftershock said, I just wouldn't be able to. The whole fucking podcast would be me doing that. Am I getting too fired up, guys? Do I need to take it down a little bit? Maybe. I don't know. I think it's okay.
What do we take this rhetoric as? Eric Holder, when they go low, we kick them. That's what this new Democratic Party is about.
What's the next line from that?
I don't know. It's not the.
He specifically says, "I'm not talking
here.
about violence." Right after he said that.
But okay,
You're going off the
I'll
headline.
see that point. But for the average viewer that doesn't read this kind of stuff, would you take that particular line snippet in a tweet as in quote incitement of violence?
Maybe don't read just the headline. Maybe read the article.
Put it on the other hat as well. Don't just go ahead and pigeonhole Trump into saying go and raid the Capitol or kick someone out and rough them up.
You mentioned me.
They missed Mike Pence in the halls of Congress by 1 minute. And if they would have gotten access to the representatives and senators that were actually hunkered down, I think it's quite obvious that people could have died. I mean, there was a potential nightmare scenario where this could have been a mass casualty event. I don't think that is alarmism to point out that that's really fucking dangerous. Because what position would this country actually be in if they would have actually pulled that off? So as far as like the fear-mongering claims, like last username, I actually agree with you quite a bit on your point that you made sort of like right before the end there, where you talked about government overreach in response to these crises. I think that is a valid concern. You raised issues like the Patriot Act and following the events of 2011. I think it's perfectly appropriate to compare that to now. So yes, we should stay vigilant and look out for this kind of government overreach and condemn it when we see it. You're right about that. But I think one thing I hope everybody in this call can agree on is that riot, that failed insurrection attempt, would not have occurred were it not for Donald Trump constantly claiming that the election was stolen. His primary medium was social media. And for that reason alone, I think a ban is so obviously justified. I don't know why the fuck we're arguing about this for an hour and a half. Thank you guys for letting me speak.
Thank you so much. Would you like to do Pelosi's comments about whiteness or the PogChamp emote being banned? Which one? Well, the original like PogChamp, not the new form thing. Okay.
Yeah, to invoke the words of Gutex as he mentioned that COVID-19 is over, he's over. So maybe topic 3 will be much more Pog.
Okay, let's do Pelosi's comments about whiteness is.
I like him.
Hutch, you okay?
Yep, I was muting.
Oh, you mean okay?
I was
Got it.
talking about chat. It's fine.
No worries. Pelosi's comments about whiteness are the next one. She said specifically that the rioters in DC chose their whiteness over democracy.
I think it's an appropriate time to point out that Donald Trump kicked off his campaign in 2015. Kicked off his campaign by implying that most Mexicans that were coming over this border were rapists, murderers, and drug dealers. I actually have the full quote. I'm going to read it right now real quick. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're sending you people that have a lot of problems. They're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people. At no point in that speech did he mention MS-13. At no point in that speech did he mention gang violence. He was very clearly implying that most of the people that are coming over our southern border were rapists, murderers, and drug dealers. And that's how he kicked off his campaign. And as far as Nancy Pelosi talking about people's whiteness, I think it's somewhat relevant. You had someone who flew a Nazi flag in the Senate chambers. You had a guy walking around with a Confederate flag. You had a black DC police officer saying that he heard people call him the N-word at least 15 times that day. If you yourself are not a white supremacist or a racist, I have to wonder what the fuck are you doing marching with Nazis? If I'm at a protest, the second I see one fucking Nazi flag, I'm out. I don't care I don't care if they're marching for Medicare for all. I will find another demonstration to go to. So her pointing out something that is so obviously true, I don't find to be all that controversial. There was a somewhat diverse array of people within that crowd. You had some people that were more on the QAnon side of things. You had some people that were more on the malicious side of things. You had some people that were more on the overt, like Nazi side of things. But at the very least, if you're looking around that crowd and you're seeing Nazi flags, why didn't you get the fuck out of there? That's the question that I have. So this is another one of those things, just like Trump's Twitter ban. I don't find what she said to be controversial in the slightest. Thank you for letting me speak. Yeah, so I just wanted to say on the particular point of them like moving the barriers back, I do think that it's fair to assume that the response of the Capitol Police and the people that were in charge of securing the Capitol building would have been different were it been had it been a large black group that was organizing some kind of an event. I don't think it's fair to point to them, for example, pushing the barrier back as a definitive example of systemic racism, because they had like very few people that were, I mean, we talked about it, but like everybody in here probably acknowledges, right? Like that they were totally understaffed and unprepared to deal with that onslaught. So that, I don't think it's quite as simple as pointing it to that one particular act of pushing the barrier back.
Why is it?
I mean, it's
And that's the federal government.
On a smaller level, you could point to just some other metrics that I think are pretty damning and undeniable. Like when you talk about the fact that black men are disproportionately more likely to be pulled over, they're disproportionately more likely to be charged with petty drug crimes, they're disproportionately sentenced longer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think it's a stretch to extrapolate that.
You bring up a great point, Vadim, right? So, like, I think that there's a big conversation to be had there, but specifically with regard to what you said about the election, what did happen is that there were laws that were put on the books that were not passed by state legislatures of some particular states, right? That was being ignored, and it's required by the Constitution for those laws to be passed by the state legislature, right? So
why did all?
Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. So you're asking the question, right? So because that specific problem, I feel like because it wasn't addressed by the Supreme Court, because it was the Texas case, there would be a conversation there as to why some of these people felt a little bit more radicalized when it came to defending the Constitution if the government itself is not going to be hearing the case.
Because they believed in bullshit. Because they were lied to by somebody that they trusted and held up as like a demigod. He told them it was stolen. Wait, no. The way that you establish whether or not there was fraud or impropriety or unconstitutionality is you do it in a court. So why the fuck did 62 courts? Why did 60? Wait. Let me finish my point. I want to ask you a question. Why couldn't you prove it in a court?
So specifically,
why do you know more? Like, why do you know more?
I don't know.
Gotta let him answer the question.
Right. So the complaint accuses Pennsylvania Secretary of State Kathy Brockfar of, among other things, without legislative approval, unilaterally abrogating the Pennsylvania statutes that require signature verification for absentee or mail-in ballots. These changes were not ratified by the Pennsylvania legislature, and Pennsylvania was asking for their votes back. The federal judiciary should have been the one that addressed this particular problem from a constitutional standpoint. So if the government itself is going to ignore the Constitution, what the fuck are we the people sitting here doing when that Constitution is supposed to hold them inside the framework to protect us?
So because you feel cheated, I'm obligated to entertain that as a valid belief because you feel that way?
There were laws that were passed inside the state that did not go through their state legislature, and that's required by the federal Constitution. Absolutely, you better.
You know more than Amy Coney Barrett and Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. You know more.
That's how I feel.
All three of them said no. You're wrong.
I'm telling you how I feel about it, and how a lot of other people that were there.
I know how you feel about it. I'm asking, why should I take that seriously? Why?
Why should you? Why shouldn't
That's
they?
a great. Why shouldn't
You know
they?
why? Because Chief Justice Roberts says there's riots in the streets.
Well,
And
we
I
got
think it's
Antifa
interesting
members serving
that
on the Supreme Court.
CTV
That's what's going on, guys.
I think it's really interesting, CTV. I mean, I got to be real with you, man.
I feel like that if I was looking at it, I wanted the federal judiciary to be the one looking at the case. I feel like that was the body to be handling things between the states, right? And there wouldn't be anybody else that would be appropriate to hear a case such as that.
And they rejected 62 cases. I mean, that's pretty. Like, you don't
So
think
now
that, like,
you're
if there was any validity to any of this, you don't think like one or two could have snuck in there?
Inside the states to reference those things. I'm talking about the one that was. Sorry, man. It's all right.
Why didn't we have a conversation about these state legislature decisions before the election? They made these
And
you don't know. You said it was wrong.
Why don't we? Why didn't we?
We used the same rules. We used the same rules.
I've been having these conversations.
You've been
Where the fuck
asking.
you been at?
You've been asking about state legislatures' decisions on voting policy. You've been doing that for like 9 months now.
Dude,
Do you have
I've been
clips?
in
Do
the
you have
shit.
VODs? Okay.
Dude, take a look.
Okay.
Yeah, but the whole problem here is that you want to LARP the AR rifle in with you're calling military grade, right? AR specifically stands for Armalite, which is the manufacturer of the rifle.
No,
and in order to get into
stands
what you
for
might
assault
qualify as a military grade
Shut up,
weapon, which
Hutch.
I couldn't help myself.
It does. If retroactively for marijuana laws, if it was decriminalized and completely legal, and you released everybody out of federal, state, and local prisons, you would have a homeless problem on your hands and also an economic problem.
So realistically, things get accomplished in steps, right? One step at a time. In order to make progress, you're going to have to accept partial solutions if it's a step in the right direction, if it makes things better. So if the only thing on the table was repeal the drug laws, let people out of jail, which is very likely to be the case, would you say, okay, do that and we'll worry about the other problems next?
No, I refuse to add to the homeless and unsheltered problem.
yeah, so that right there would be the exact same argument that was being made for why they shouldn't give black people rights or why they shouldn't do those things back during the days of the Civil War and slavery. We don't want to free them, right? We don't want to give them these freedoms because they won't know what to do with them after they get them.
Wasn't there a whole conversation after emancipation about like 40 acres and a mule and it never actually happened? I don't think like what you're saying is entirely incompatible with what Joe's saying. I think Joe's saying that like you need to address both of the issues at the same time.
But the thing is, CTV, what you got to understand here is that if these individuals were to get released from jail at mass scale, there's no safety nets that's going to prevent them from going back into the situation while they're in jail in the first place, which is why you need to not only release them from prison, but you also have to make sure that their economic needs are met so they don't end up back in that very same situation.
I'm not saying that you can't do that, but the first thing that we need to do before we even write one piece of social program is give these people their freedom.
Well, Oakland is a good example of touching on what Joe was talking about, where I think people they decriminalize marijuana and then they expunge people's records in Oakland County, I believe. Is that a county? Is it a city? I don't know. But they also, like, when they got out, they invested. They gave a lot of these. They gave them money to start their own marijuana business or get into the industry. So they were addressing both the problems at the same time. The image of a man walking through the halls of Congress, these hallowed halls of Congress, with a Confederate flag, are really powerful and potent images that will stick with us for decades. I think in many ways that image will define the Trump era. And it's not really too much of a surprise that somebody would draw a link between what we saw in the Capitol building and white supremacy. And I have nothing else to say. Thank you for letting me speak.
Okay, next is going to be Turk.
I really don't get to have an opinion in here because as a cis white male, I don't get an opinion. All I can say is lumping an entire group of people into the actions of very few people in a particular instance is inflammatory. I like to think that I love all people regardless, and I don't get an opinion.
Okay, next is going to be Vadim.
You guys don't even know like how fucking triggered I am. You don't know how much I'm shaking.
Thought no to Joe Lewis's
Now we're going to go into the last topic. It's going to be a short one. PogChamp being banned from Twitch. If you're in favor of it, if you're against it, this is the PogChamp emote was Gootex's emote, and Gootex made certain comments about the Capitol that led to it getting banned from Twitch. Are you in favor of it? Are you against it? Etc. Etc.
I mean, asking me my opinion about them taking the PogChamp emote out is like asking me my opinion about like the sun rising, like whether or not it was right. Like, of course they were going to do that. And it wasn't just the MAGA, #MAGA martyr line. This dude has been heavily steeped in MAGA disinformation for quite some time. If you just peruse his account, you'll see that he went way down the rabbit hole with coronavirus truther shit. He went way down the rabbit hole with election fraud shit. The idea of framing this as just the fucking lunatic left has lost their minds once again, and they're just out to find something to be offended about. I think that's a really convenient way to avoid the conversation of like why it happened. This didn't happen because people were seeking out something to be pissed off about. This happened because the guy spewed garbage, horrendous takes, tacitly supporting an insurrection, and a major corporation decided, I don't think I want that person's face to be the face of our brand. It's that simple. This has nothing to do with the left losing their minds.
I couldn't give two shits, man. Like, if hypothetically, if there was like a, like an emote of like fucking, like, I don't know, like Hitler or some shit that was like very bad, like obviously I can see it, but it's just one of those things where, the left wants to, and everyone on this panel, like they give their reasons for wanting to ban X, Y, and Z, but they don't give a shit of why. If you did, you would call out the left for what they do. You would call out the left on the Hunter Biden. You would call the left out on telling everybody that cops are mowing down black people. That like you just don't care unless it fits the agenda, and that's the difference between us and you guys.
Hunter Biden.
Hold on.
Okay.
When the left, like tacitly supports an insurrection or habitually spreads misinformation about a deadly pandemic that can cause real damage when you're talking about someone with a following of hundreds of thousands of views, when the left starts spreading baseless allegations of voter fraud that in part led to an attempted insurrection, yes, you will see us call them out. I promise you. But is it possible that some problems in this country are exclusive to the right and some problems are exclusive to the left?
But for the
I think that's
a lot
fact.
of people on the right condemn the actions that happened on the 6th. We condemn all of the bad crap that's been going on in the past few years,
but we have polling,
you
bro.
can't lump an entire group of people based on the actions of small amounts of people, man.
Because we have polling at this point, and at least 50% of the Republican Party supported the actions in the Capitol. This is like an aggregate of like a few different polls. That's a
so you're going to lump all 100% of them in based on a poll of 50%.
I'm going to lump half of you guys because that's what the polling tells us. Half the party supported what happened.
So who on this panel from the right do you say goes with that? 50%. Choose. Right now.
Okay,
go.
Let me just ask you, do you think the election was stolen? Do you think the election was stolen? Okay, great. But 50% of the Republican Party does. That's a serious fucking problem, and it is exclusive to the right now.
Just a reminder, Gootex categorizes himself as a member of the left. So I don't know where this fits in the arc, but
the left does nothing these days but fight with each other and try to cancel each other all the fucking time. It happens constantly on the left. There's nothing but fighting. We never get along. Everyone's trying to kick each other off of every platform when we say something we don't like. Constantly.
Hutch, how dare you say that, Hutch? I cancel you immediately. How fucking dare you?
Why do you
Never work
think?
with you again. Thank you all for coming by, and you all have a blessed weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Well, there you go. The first political panel, guys.